Well, according to yet more research into the dangers of concussion in sport, half of elite adult rugby players have shown a reduction in brain volume and almost a quarter display abnormalities in brain structure. The Drake Foundation in the UK funded this study, and they're now calling for the rule changes to protect players due to the risks of concussion. It does, I think, and studies like this prove that the scrutiny around contact sports, especially rugby codes and brain health, is not just going to be riding off into the sunset sometime soon, and nor should it. Because if we don't deal with this effectively, if the codes don't deal with this effectively, not only are they risking the long-term health of their players, their employees, but equally, they're risking the long-term financial viability of their game, as has been pretty well established the last few months in the broader conversation. I want to turn to Dr. Adrian Cohen, concussion researcher from HeadSafe. He's joined us before and he's joining us again. Adrian, good morning.
You're always welcome.
The Drake Foundation are doing some pretty good work there in the UK, and one of the things out of this study which surprised me, because I haven't heard much said about it, but maybe it's just because I haven't come across it, is this finding that brain volumes have been reduced due to repeated concussions.
Yeah, this is interesting. So, full credit to James Drake, who's a private philanthropist who's put the money into a foundation to research this. And the first question we should have asked is, well, why aren't the codes doing this? Why isn't our health system doing this? But even leaving that aside, they've done the work and they've started to look at past footballers and present players, and they're doing things objectively measuring. So what that means is, instead of just asking people how they feel and how they think they're coping, and when you ask players, they will tell you an answer that keeps them in the game. They're actually trying to find some objective metrics, one of which is brain volume, which means they've done complex scanning to see what the brain looks like. And also they're taking biomarkers. That means they're taking samples from the body, whether it's blood or whether it's saliva or urine in this case, to look for elements that show there's been damage to the brain. I have to applaud all of this. It's work that's long overdue, and it's starting to put measurements on what we know has been going on. We know there's been a problem. Players are telling us there's a problem. The increasing number of families who have players suffering as a result of playing the sport are telling us there's a problem. And it seems that we now have some evidence to help back that up.
Yes. One of the points that James Drake made, he said, and I quote him here, "I've seen in recent years how the power of sport has intensified and the very obvious effects that can have on elite athletes." Now, this is a point you've made to me in the past, that the players are now bigger than ever before. They're running arguably harder than ever before. The impact, the contact is more intense than ever before. Logic would dictate that will have an impact.
Absolutely. An impact being the operative word here. You see, concussion and brain damage as a result of playing sport is simple physics. And when we were at school, energy was half mv squared, where m is mass, v is velocity. Of course they're going faster. We know that every game we watch, we say the players are faster than 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And their mass, well, the average player now is 100 kilograms or more. The days of the diminutive halfback, of the waist-like but very fast winger are gone. The wingers are now 180 to 190 centimetres, over 6 foot in the old code. They're now weighing over 100 kilograms. Remember when Jonah Lomu first took the field for New Zealand? He was quite an outstanding athlete, and he was a big, fast unit. There are dozens of these on the football field, and you can't compete at the top level unless you're like that. What that means is there's more energy in every single collision, and there's more collisions than there were ever before because the seasons are longer, the training's more intense. And until we can decrease the amount of energy that's out there, we're not going to be able to solve the problem. So we have to look at decreasing contact in practice. We have to look at policing the rules of the game so the energy is applied appropriately and that we don't allow swinging arms and we don't have head-high tackles. sports like ice hockey, they're getting rid of those because they realise they actually do damage.
Yeah, I mean, you've mentioned their training, as did James Drake. This is one aspect that I suppose a lot of people that enjoy watching the game probably don't appreciate, and that is that the issue of concussion is as relevant in training, which is often a very intense few hours or whatnot, as it is on game day itself.
Absolutely. I mean, when we were kids playing the sport, there was only our team training. Every now and then they brought a couple of ring-ins or you played the year above you or something like that. Every team these days has at least 30 or 40 top-class players. Now, of course, only in rugby union, 15 of them are going to be on the field at any time. There'll be 8 reserves. The rest of them go into full contact practice. The idea being that if you can do it in practice, you're going to get it right during the game. Perfect practice makes perfect play. Now, the Americans got wise to this about 10 years ago. They realised they were damaging their people, and they put an limit number of full innings. We're still behind that in rugby league and rugby union and in AFL, the major sports in our country. We still think it's a good idea to go out and do it more so in training than you do in the game. Because, remembering in the game, players these days probably only play 45, 50 or 60 minutes in some cases. It's the rare player, and there's a few of them that go the full 80. So in training, though, they can be out there for hours, and they emulate what they're expected to do, which is full contact, hitting the ball up, being tackled, full force scrums, and just going over and over and over again.
I note that I think when we last spoke a few months ago now, of course, the rugby league was front and centre because they were cracking down through the refereeing and the interpretation of the rules which currently exist. They were at least enforcing them to do with head-high shots. And there was a lot of people who may consider themselves purists, or I don't know what the word is, but saying, oh, look, the game's getting soft, and in my day, all this sort of stuff. But then bit by bit, the former players and others started to come out and say, no, listen, yeah, it's got nothing to do with about being tough. This is about being sensible, and we can't have a legacy where people retire with degenerative brain injuries and all sorts of horrible, horrible conditions just so that we can appear tough. And I think the narrative is starting to shift. Would you agree?
I think it is. I think we're all becoming more aware. But let's be honest. There's no doubt that it's a gladiatorial sport. There's no doubt that it's tough. But show me where in the rules of the game or in the coaching manual it says, and this is how you hit another player in the head. If it happens because there's a tackle and the arm slides up, we understand that is, in general terms, it's an accident. That wasn't the intention. When you talk about intentional foul play, in the old days when players were told to go out and clock somebody, go and start a blue, go and start a punch-up, and there were code words for doing this, or make sure your tackles hurt someone on the opposition so they didn't play, that's the part of the game that we can actually affect. We can make the rules. Well, in fact, we've already made the rules. We can police the rules. And the referees are all saying, oh, well, this is going to change the game and we're going to come under scrutiny because we're being too tough. Referee, you're just doing your job. It's your job to police the rules. If you do that properly, there'll be less head-high shots. We'll have less long-term problems. It really is quite a simple equation.
Yeah, I think that's right. And, of course, it protects the longevity of the game. Good to talk to you again, Adrian. We'll stay on top of this one. I don't think the momentum's gone, when that's a positive. Great to talk to you.
You're always welcome.
That's Dr. Adrian Cohen there, concussion researcher from HeadSafe.